You look at the final numbers. Broncos win 20-13. That win pushes their record to a really impressive 13-3, while the Chiefs drop to 6-10. You see that, you think, okay, routine victory for a great team at home. But trust me, that scoreboard does not tell the whole story. Not even close.
Yeah, this really should have been just another day at the office for Denver. But the real story, the one we're going to break down here, is how this game turned into a total nail-biter. And it actually revealed some pretty crucial things about both of these teams as we head into the home stretch of the season.
So, first things first, how did Denver actually manage to pull out the win? Well, it really boiled down to two things. They ground out the clock like crazy, and then they executed one brilliant high-pressure play when it mattered most.
Their strategy was pretty clear. Just control the football. I mean, the Broncos' offense was on the field for these huge chunks of the game. They put together 3 marathon drives that each lasted more than 8 minutes. But here's the thing. They really struggled to turn all that time into touchdowns. They had to settle for field goals on 2 of those long marches.
So how did they finally get into the end zone? Well, this is where it gets good. At the 2-minute warning, they're facing this do-or-die 4th down. And they played some serious chess. They line up like they're going to go for it, a super gutsy call. But it was all a bluff, just trying to get the defense to jump. And it worked perfectly. They drew the star defender, Chris Jones, offsides. That penalty gives them a fresh set of downs, and literally the very next play, Bo Nix hits R.J. Harvey for the game-winning touchdown. Just a beautiful sequence of strategy and execution.
Okay, now let's flip over to the other side of the ball. You got to remember the Chiefs were these massive underdogs, right? They were playing with a complete surprise at quarterback. And yet, they came so incredibly close to pulling off one of the biggest upsets of the entire season.
And the weight of that potential upset, it fell right on the shoulders of this guy, Chris Oladokun. I mean, think about this. After 4 long years on the practice squad, which is basically the team's reserve roster, he was finally getting his first ever NFL start. Talk about being thrown straight into the fire.
And for pretty much the whole game, Oladokun looked, well, about how you'd expect. The Broncos defense just had him completely locked down, holding him to only 43 yards passing. But then, with the game on the line, in those final minutes, something just clicked. He suddenly came to life, marching his team right down the field with a chance to tie it all up.
But you know, the Cinderella story just wasn't meant to be. A really crucial delay of game penalty pushed them back, the pressure started to build, and 2 straight incomplete passes ended the threat right there. Just a heartbreaking finish to what was a really valiant effort.
So, yeah, the Broncos left the field with a W in the win column. But the way they won definitely set off some alarm bells. This victory felt less like a dominant statement and way more like they just narrowly escaped. Which leads us to the big question here, right? Why are we calling this win ugly? I mean, they're 13-3, one of the best teams in the league. They were playing a struggling division rival who was starting a quarterback for the very first time. Why was this so concerning? Well, the analysis from our source material really puts it perfectly. It says, it was a tighter game than it should have been, considering the circumstances. And that just perfectly sums up the concern around this Broncos performance. The reasons for that concern were pretty clear when you watch the game. Denver was just plagued by these self-inflicted wounds, costly penalties, like a 27-yard pass interference that kept a Chiefs drive going. They kept settling for field goals inside the red zone. And maybe most importantly, they let a team they really should have blown out hang around until the final second. All right, so let's peel back another layer here and look at a few key stats from this game, because they tell an even more detailed story about the matchups that really defined this thing. First, just look at the Chiefs' offense. It was basically a one-man show. Their superstar tight end, Travis Kelce, accounted for over half of the team's entire receiving yardage. When the Chiefs needed a play through the air, you knew exactly where the ball was going. But, and this is a huge but for Denver, here's the counterpoint. When the Broncos put their superstar cornerback, Patrick Surtain II, on Kelce, he was basically erased from the game. Just 1 catch for 11 yards. That shows you that when Denver absolutely had to, they had an answer for the Chiefs' only real offensive threat. Now let's zoom out for a second and add some bigger context to this win. For the head coach, Sean Payton, this victory marked his 5th career season with 13 or more wins. That is an absolutely incredible accomplishment in the NFL. And just to put that into perspective, the only other coach in the history of the NFL to do that is Bill Belichick. That's it. That's the list. It's a powerful reminder that even though this game was a struggle, the Broncos are led by one of the all-time greats.
And that all leaves us with this one final, really critical question. The Broncos got the job done, no doubt. They're on the verge of locking up the #1 seed in the AFC. But was this ugly win just a little blip on the radar? Or did it expose a serious vulnerability, a crack in the armor that could be a huge problem once the playoffs begin? That is the question Denver has to answer, and they have to answer it fast.